Let's make some pancakes. What's going on, y'all? I have been making protein pancakes for decades at this point, and every time I post about my protein pancakes, inevitably several people ask me for my recipe, and it was kind of one of those, I'll get around to it at some point. Well, I am getting around to it now, finally. You have asked, it is here, my protein pancake recipe. Now, I will start by saying I don't actually have an official recipe. I have never written it down. I've never measured any of the ingredients that I put in. And to be honest with you, the ingredients kind of change seasonally based on what I have in my pantry and my fridge. So the great thing about protein pancakes is that you can pretty much use anything and everything and they'll come out okay. Consistency is probably the most important thing. So my rule of thumb when it comes to the actual batter is if it's too thin, add dry ingredients. If it's too thick, add wet ingredients, and you really can't go wrong. We are currently in late September with October just around the corner, which of course means that it is pumpkin season in full swing. So today I'm going to show you how to create my pumpkin protein pancakes. And in future videos, we'll also do the banana pancakes. And again, this recipe is so versatile, you can really make any kind of pancakes that you want. Let's dive into the official Rebecca Rouse pumpkin protein pancakes. As you can see, I've got all of my ingredients here laid out on the counter. I'm gonna go through each ingredient one by one. So starting with my Icelandic Siggy's yogurt, you could also use Greek yogurt, whatever yogurt you have, or no yogurt at all. I've got coconut oil. You're definitely gonna want some kind of oil to keep the pancakes nice and moist. Doesn't have to be coconut, that's just what I prefer. You could also use melted butter. I've got chia seeds and flax meal, which are gonna become part of our flour. I've got rolled oats, which I love. If you don't want to use oats and you prefer a higher fat, lower carb version, you could leave the oats out and use just almond flour or coconut flour or whatever alternative flour that you like. A must-have here for your protein pancakes is protein powder. I use Jocko Fuel. They have a seasonal pumpkin spice Molk protein, which I absolutely love. It is phenomenal. And then on top of that, we've got our fresh canned pumpkin. This is about 8 ounces of pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling. That's got a lot of added sugar. This is just straight pumpkin. I've got 3 eggs, 2 to 4 eggs. You're gonna be fine. I use a little bit of the Molk RTD as well for added protein and also as one of my liquid ingredients for the base. Because you can never have too much pumpkin, I use additional pumpkin pie spice and additional cinnamon. I've got my baking powder to keep the pancakes fluffy, and then optional, but not really optional, chocolate chips, and then I use walnuts. If you prefer pecans or you don't like nuts in your pancakes, obviously leave them out, but chocolate chips are gonna go in the not so optional category. Unless you buy pre-made oat flour, then the first thing you're gonna wanna do is take your rolled oats and grind them into oat flour. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Use my trusty Vitamix here. Grinds anything into flour. That's about 2 cups of rolled oats. At this point in time, I add my chia seeds to the rolled oats and incorporate that into my flour mixture. I like to add chia seeds because they're high in omega-3s and fiber, and it just adds a little bit of extra nutrition to my flour base. Again, nothing really gets measured. I just kind of go based off of feel. Probably a couple tablespoons. Now I'm gonna put the lid on and grind it into flour. Take my lid off. Here's my flour mixture. So as you can see, I have about 2 cups of my oat/chia flour here. Now I'm gonna take the almond flour, add some almond flour, and just combine it. And then the last component of my dry ingredient mixture is flax meal. Flax is also a great source of fiber and omega-3s, so I add a few tablespoons into my dry mixture and just combine. So now I've got just over 3 cups of dry ingredients, and this will honestly last me probably 2 separate batches of protein pancakes because I haven't even added the protein powder yet, which is another dry ingredient. I add that later. My dry ingredients are ready. Now I'm going to go heat the griddle, and then we're gonna get to the wet ingredients. So the reason that I prepare my dry ingredients before my wet ingredients is because you don't want to have to deal with cleaning out your blender, letting it dry, and then risking having your dry ingredients get stuck to the partially wet blender. So word of wisdom, get your dry ingredients prepped first, get them out of the blender, then start your wet ingredients. Let's do it. First thing I need to do is melt my coconut oil. So I'm gonna take about 1/4 cup. Because it's pretty warm in here, it's not quite solid, not quite liquid. I'm gonna crack my eggs first. Next goes my 8 ounces or so of raw pumpkin. And then we're gonna add about 4 ounces of yogurt. Again, not an essential ingredient, but if you have it and you want some extra protein, feel free to add some yogurt. I have melted my coconut oil, so I'm gonna add that to the mix. And then feel free to add extra cinnamon and extra pumpkin pie spice. Last thing, got about 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And a pinch of salt for good measure. So now what I'm gonna do is cover the blender and put it on low and slowly add scoops of the dry ingredients as the wet ingredients are blending. I start with my protein. I'll do about 2 to 3 scoops of the Molk protein powder, depending on how much protein you want. You can adjust that accordingly. And then I'm gonna add the dry ingredient mixture, the flour that we made earlier, scoop by scoop until the batter gets to the consistency that I want. After blending, let the mixture sit for a few minutes. It will start to thicken up naturally. And this is about the consistency that we're going for. But if you find that your batter has thickened too much after you let it sit, just add some water, add some milk, whatever you need to thin it out a little bit. If it's still too watery, just add some more of your dry ingredients, either the oat mixture, the oat flour, or the protein, whichever one you like, until it gets to the appropriate thickness. So as you can see, I only used a little over 1 cup of my dry ingredients. So in this case, I have 2 choices. I can add more wet ingredients and more dry ingredients and just get a higher volume of batter to make right now. Or I can put this away into a Tupperware and save it to make another batch of pancakes at a later time. I'm gonna save this flour for another batch. I'll probably make this coming weekend, but work smarter, not harder, and save yourself the time later on by already having your dry ingredients prepared. And then all you have to worry about is the wet. Now for the fun part, let's make some pancakes. You have options here. You can make big pancakes, you can make little pancakes. I usually work with the 2 burners that I have going and just make 2 bigger pancakes at a time. Now time for our mix-ins. Chocolate chips go first, and because I'm a little bit crazy, I like to make sure there's an even amount in each pancake. So I drop them in one at a time. Make sure they get fully submerged into the batter. And now my walnut pieces. Break them up into smaller chunks if they're big. Time to flip. I wish you could smell what I smell right now. Pumpkin spice heaven. Sometimes while you're cooking, the batter will thicken up too much, so that just happened to me. I'm gonna add some water and reblend to make it a little bit thinner. That batch of batter made 8 total pancakes, and a typical breakfast for me will be about 2. Feel free to add syrup or any toppings that you like. Keep in mind that these pancakes are higher in protein and fiber and overall nutrient density than your typical pancake that's made with refined flour and added sugar. Because of this, you should feel fuller for longer. Enjoy! I prefer coconut oil. You could also use butter that you melt. Butter that you melt? Melted butter? Let's dive into the official Rouse Let's dive into the official Rouse protein pumpkin